Hey, Jeannie Lynch coming back to you today. Welcome back. So excited to bring you this next topic, and it's one that is so near and dear to my heart. Are you ready? Here's my question today. Have you ever had the beautiful experience of witnessing a birth? Maybe you've had your own child, right? I remember when my own daughter was born, and that final push, that last push, opened my eyes. And I swear to you, everybody that was available at the hospital was in my room. And they all wanted the same thing. They wanted to be part of that celebration and witnessing the magnificence that we call life. Well, my guest and I both believe that that same beautiful transition absolutely happens as we head back home. So we're going to talk about that today. Rayna is coming in. You're going to meet her. You're going to learn about her beautiful business, which is called A Season of Caring. We're going to also talk about her new book, which is No Regrets. You can only imagine what that's going to be about. And I can't wait to share her with you. So stay listening, stay watching that beautiful episode. It's coming up next. Rayna, so happy you're here today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come in and talk to our audiences. So whether people are listening to this on our podcast or following this on our YouTube channels, we truly do appreciate the audience. So Rayna Neises, and we know that you're the nicest person we'll ever meet. So I love that little pun in there. We're going
Thank
to
you.
talk today. I did kind of do a layup to you, but this first question is just I want to get to know you better and I want our audiences to know you. And we're going to talk about this beautiful aspect of what you're doing for business, and you're going to open the door to that. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to share. I think it's such a blessing to share our stories and to help other people see how we weave our lives together and influence others. So I'm honored to be here. So my story starts really with caring for aging parents and in a way that a lot of people haven't. You mentioned earlier that, I've lost both of my parents to Alzheimer's. So we knew that my dad had been diagnosed because he had a 14-year journey with the disease.
Got it.
So he was, doing really well, honestly. And his sister was living with him. He'd stopped driving, but he was going to the gym 3 times a week, playing volleyball 3 times a week. He's just a really active guy. And he developed melanoma and had to have surgery. And so those of you that know anything about the brain, you know that interaction of anesthesia and Alzheimer's isn't a good fit. And so he really had a period of time that it just really went downhill, being able to care for himself and do those personal things.
How old was your father? You said it was a long journey, years. How old was he when he was diagnosed?
So he was 73 when he was
Young.
diagnosed.
Okay. Got it.
So my mom was 53 when she was diagnosed. And so she lived 12 years with the disease. And then he, 7 years after that, was diagnosed. So at that point, then he really needed more help than his sister could provide. So my sister and I hit that point where we were, now what do we do? She had elementary age kids. I had a student in high school. I was teaching part-time. I was going to school to be a coach. There were so many things going on in our lives, but here was this big need. And so we really got together and talked with Dad. And he had asked us in the very beginning of his diagnosis, I want to be at home as long as possible. And so I had to kind of struggle with that. What does that look like? And how do we do that? And so we made the decision to bring in-home care to him 24/7. And I was one of those caregivers. So I live on a farm about 220 miles away from where Dad lived. And so I drove up and stayed 3 days a week with him. And so that made a big shift in our lives.
Your whole journey of, helping your own family do this process, right? So,
Right.
so take me through when did it switch? Did the parents both pass and then you were like, hey, I think more people need to do this? And so take me through into your business real quick too. And I'm going to get back on track with our questions, but I just want to kind of navigate through
Sure.
how did you stop? Because this is so many people. They have to stop the work to take care of the parent and then they got to go back to work. But you stopped the work, took care of your parent, and then continued to do this work for others. So take us through that journey and kind of what that looks like today as you support other people.
Sure. So actually, I never really stopped the work. I shifted, I pivoted. And so I was teaching 4 days a week as a reading specialist in a private school. And I did stop that work, which I kind of had planned to do that anyway because I had got into life coaching. And so I finished my training. I started my practice all at the same time as I was caring for my dad because that job was mobile. So I was able to do that. So I was really working with women in transition and having coaching clients. It was a small clientele, but it was something that just really was helping me hone my skills and get to that point. So after the 4.5 years of caring for my dad in his home and losing him at that point,
Got it.
then that's when I made the shift to say, this has been a really tough journey. And I know that many other people are going to be here. And I would just like to be able to come alongside them and offer them some tools and some support in this season. So
So
that's when I made the shift.
do you take clients today? Is it all focused on end of life transition and that's kind of that's your ideal client, or are you still open to working with women in transition and all aspects?
I'm still open to working with women in transition, but my passion is really supporting those that find themselves just walking into the season. I like to say that I want to walk with you as you walk your parent all the way home.
Yeah.
And I want you to have a life that you love so that whenever you do bury them, you have a life to walk back into. Because I think so many times this season can become completely overwhelming and we give up everything and we find ourselves really lost at the end of the life of the person that we're caring for. And we know that's not really what they want either. And so, really being able to find the way to honor both yourself and for them is my passion.
So I love this. I wish there was more people who did this too. So help me understand. We'll call it like the care plan because there's always it takes a village, right? So
Mhm.
it can never
Definitely.
you're not going in just to do the home care, although you did that. And there's different aspects of needs and paperwork and all that. So do you help with the technical side of it, or are you still on the viewing and the coaching and trying to mediate the family and take me through just like give me an example of a client who maybe came to you and you can say, oh, this was the experience and this is what I was able to help. I think there's going to be so many people who are watching this are going, oh my God, she's telling me my story right now. I could really use some help. How could we assist other people with your work?
So my heart is really to come alongside and help you with the emotional needs
Got it.
because that is the most difficult part, I think, in the process. Definitely helping you find resources, explore opportunities to get those additional resources because I'm huge about finding your team and
Got
getting those people around you to help you be able to, again, engage in your own life at the same time as have be able to honor your parent through this process. We need to make sure that we're really getting all of that into place. And so I find that the need is really to come alongside.
So, we're talking about the timeline and then, from one aspect of, assisting your parents and then starting your business, you were already coaching. And so you, like you said, you didn't stop, you just grew and transitioned into a bigger aspect of it. Um, the timeline is the last 5 years you've been doing this? Because now we got to kind of get into this beautiful book that you wrote called No Regrets. So take me there. Tell me
And
about that.
after losing him, then I made that pivot with my business. And just as I was talking with people and hearing their stories and their needs, I realized that our story could really meet a lot of needs and help encourage others in this season. And so I was able to write the book called No Regrets, Hope for Your Caregiving Season. And it really is just a combination of sharing our stories, what we
Okay.
did to help my dad in his season, and then the things that I learned. So those things I wish I had known when I first started, and I had to discover the hard way, and those things that really those personal stories and just some specific tools and tips for people to be able to make it through this season and
So
bury their
it's an
parents with no regrets.
inspirational book, but also would you consider it like a workbook? Are there chapters where someone can kind of navigate through like this season and so on?
There are definitely tips and ideas that you can take notes and to do your own thinking through
Okay.
and resources. So the first half is a lot of kind of how do we handle medicine, doctors, and hiring help and honoring him and offering him to be able to continue the things he loved, just those kinds of things. The last 6 chapters are how do I deal with me? How do
Got
I
it.
deal with my emotions? How do I make my life one that I love, even at this time when I'm needing to put so much focus somewhere else?
Yeah, I got two really important questions that I know will open up a beautiful discussion for us. The first one is you kind of laid up to a beautiful question I love asking, which is if I knew then what I know now, I would have. So that's a good because you were talking about what it taught you. And I think those two questions are in one. Um, if you knew then what you know now, what would you have done differently? Or would you do anything differently?
I did name my book No Regrets, and I've had people kind of challenge me on that. But I think the reason why I say I have no regrets is because I really, throughout the process, took time to reflect and to really make a new choice if I wasn't happy with the choice I was making at the time. So, would I do anything different? I think the one thing that comes to mind is I would talk to my dad more in the beginning when he
Mm.
could talk to me.
Right.
With the disease, my mom lost her verbal skills within 3 years of her diagnosis. So I was 19 when my mom could no longer have conversations with me. And I knew that, but I didn't really relate that to my dad because his progression was so different. We were almost 8 years into his diagnosis and he was still verbal, but he wasn't able to have as much of a conversation, a heart conversation, probably at that time, even. But I wish I'd had more of those heart conversations. We
That is,
talked and we had great memories, and I love the memories and time that I had with him, but really gleaning that wisdom and knowledge from him, I wish I got more.
I know when you and I were meeting and talking offline, I was sharing with you coming home to my own family. My father had um, all these signs as we're talking. And my family just kept saying this statement, and I know you know what it is. It's, well, it's only going to get worse because this is the type of disease it is, and today it's this, but tomorrow it could be this. And I kind of came through the door once, and one of my sisters really was the one who provided all the care, like you are to your family. She was the lead, I guess we'll call it. But I remembered saying, geez, every day we just keep talking about how much worse it's going to get. And every day we're making the best decisions, the informed decisions that we can with the information and this disease taking over that we can make. So in a sense, it's not getting worse. We're doing better by following and navigating through this process. So I'm sure, do you tend to attract people with the Alzheimer's or is it anybody at the end of their life?
I definitely would be thrilled to work with anyone at the end of their life. My experience is Alzheimer's, and I think so many people relate to that. My stories,
Yeah.
it just makes people go, oh, me too. It's that feeling of really being seen by somebody, but definitely we can journey together, anyone who's on this walk. And my main goal is your heart just needs to be honoring your parent and living a life that you love. And if that's your page, we can work together.
Okay, so here's the next tough question then. You answered the regret one. We got this one's probably going to end up getting a little heated because I know that a lot of people watching might go, and the question is this, and it's not on your sheet, so I apologize, but
That's
you'll
okay.
know how to answer it. Navigating through families, right? The
Mm.
lead and people and the different, and everybody has their own contracts with their mom and dads, as we know spiritually. So how do you get everybody involved or listen to how do you deal with the family navigation? Because I know that's got to be part of your work.
It is. It's tricky. And I think the most important thing is just to remember it's not about you and it's not about winning. It's about keeping your parent the priority and helping others to be able to do that as well. I often work with those people that are the primary lead and they're the ones who are making the biggest sacrifice, as people would say. But I always say, make sure that you're invite the others to be a part. And then it's their choice. They can either say, no, I don't want to make time for that, or, okay, I'll be here and do this. So I think the key is to not get resentful to those other family members that are not in the trenches with you, but
Okay.
realize that they can have a part and they can have an important part. It just doesn't have to look like your part. And so really navigating, again, I think the emotions of it are part of what really get in the way, is that we just expect everybody to think like us and to do what we do. And we know that doesn't really work. It doesn't work in any relationship.
Yeah,
So it's
I
really
love
not going to
that.
work in this situation.
I love that awareness. I would like to share with you, and I think we talked about this a little bit. End of life interview I was doing with some people on in my world, and getting the person prepared. So I know we're talking a lot about supporting the family, and a lot of people, no matter how prepared you are. I was in the financial world for years, and everyone, I have the trust set up, and don't worry, the will's in place. And I'm no matter how prepared people are, there's still so much to do. So I want to go next into talking about getting the soul, the spirit, the person prepared for this transition to the other side. Does any of your work connect to that also, so that I can only, and again, going on my own experience. I was able to help Michael's father at the end of his life, help him get through the grief of losing his wife of 65 years, grief, and then
Mhm.
approached him after his wife died and said, "How would you like to do an interview with me?" And he wanted the last word. So we worked on this project for 3 years together. He
Wow.
said everything he wanted to say to his family. It was him at this funeral saying, "I want you to remember me this way." And it was important to him. And there
Mhm.
was no doubt in my mind when he transitioned, he was ready. He had dotted the I's and crossed the T's. So take me there to your work. Is that a component that's also in your beautiful work?
I think it is such an important piece of it. Again, if you're dealing with someone with Alzheimer's, they lose that ability to communicate. And so that's one of the things that I really encourage people to be in the moment, to have the conversations, and to really just open the door to be able to talk about these things early and often. It's the way I put it. We
Great.
have to talk about it. We have to allow the other person to talk about it, because they do have things that they want to share and are important to them. So no matter where they are in the journey, that ongoing conversation really has to be important. And I think as a person who's caring, sometimes we get in this place of wanting to push, 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 and take care of and heal and fix everything.
Yes.
So a lot of what I do is reminding us to say, let's look at where we are, what's most important. What's important to mom or dad? Are they tired? Are they done? Are we listening? Are we looking for the signs of them being ready, and you're not?
Yeah.
And so we do have those tough conversations.
Yeah. What is can you share a couple challenges that you see, like, boy, if you could get in there and fix. I mean, I know everyone's so different, so that might be really hard to answer, but if you could say, if more people realized it was emotions and not control, and so what would be some tips for somebody maybe navigating this right now in their life? What would you give for 3 tips for advice for anyone who's starting this process and doesn't know where to start? What's a good start point?
So number one is, do not jump before you look.
Okay.
So many times we are helpers. That's who we are by nature, and we're just stepping in to help. And if we step in and do everything ourselves, we will find ourselves in a place where we've given up everything, and then we're a little puddle on the floor. I mean,
Got
we
it.
just don't have anything left. And
Okay.
so we can't jump before we really look. We need to really look at what's most important, and what do I need to do, and what can someone else take care of. So, for example, if our parents are aging and the yard's not taken care of like they've always wanted it to be, I love the heart of let me help you, but what if I were to hire the neighbor kid,
Love it.
instead of
Yes.
taking it all on ourselves?
Yeah.
The second one would be to take time to reflect. We have to spend time reflecting on our own emotions and on how things are going, because in the moment we're just reacting, and unless we really take time to reflect on our own condition of our heart, on our loved ones condition of their heart, and on what's really happening, how it's going, then we can't make those adjustments we need to make, and that's when we find we have regrets later.
Love it. We got
And
one more.
one more, I would say, just really cherish the moment, stay in the moment. So many times people with Alzheimer's lose their purpose. And my dad was an athletic go getter his whole life. And I found in the summer, we don't regulate heat the same as we age. And he wanted to be outside and he was getting overheated. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I went to Walmart and I found this net. And so I went ahead and I purchased this net. And I thought, well, let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
I put that net on the dining room table and we spent 3 hours playing ping pong, laughing and being silly. And it was so much fun that within 3 weeks, my husband and I found a used ping pong table. We moved it into the formal family room. We moved all the furniture out of the way. And for years, my dad and I and caregivers too would play ping pong with him. And he was so ornery. He would hit that corner of that ping pong table and laugh as I had to go all the way down the hall where the bedrooms were to chase that ball. We just had so much fun. And I think there are things they can't do. All of our parents, as they age, there are going to be things they can't do, but there are things they can do. So spend the time doing those things and have fun, make the memories, and stay in the moment.
My gosh, that's a whole video on itself. I love those. And I'm going to go to number two that you were talking about, which is compassion. It's just a good opportunity to plug another video right up there. I just did this whole one. I don't know if you saw it. It was on compassion and just how to be compassionate and the mistakes that people think when they think they're being compassionate. So,
Mm.
little plug for that. It lines up with your work because you can't be in the moment with somebody with Alzheimer's and right? And not be compassionate.
Right, definitely.
So listen, we're coming around the final 220. I want to make sure that in our talking today and introducing and talking about your book and your work and allowing people to know that, this thing that everyone's afraid of, hey,
Mm.
everybody, it's going to happen to you,
It
right? So
is.
we're all going to at some point transition. I'm reminded as you were talking, there was a woman I did an interview with recently. We're talking about being prepared for grief. And she said, it's never too late to start learning now. So it's so important for the people who
Mm.
are, so focused on just helping their parents get through this moment. This is you're already starting the grief process, right?
You
So
are.
lean
Mhm.
in, lean in. So
Yeah.
have I missed anything today that when you knew I was going to interview you, you were really hoping that we would have the time to talk about?
Well, I wanted to share one of and the title of my book is the second part is Hope for Your Caregiving Season.
Love it.
So, would you mind if I shared a little bit from the end of my book?
I would love that. I think it's a perfect way to wrap up too before we go into our rapid fire. So let's do
All
that.
right. Very good. Through this season, you're going to experience different heartaches, acknowledging them, but not just stopping at the heartache. Look past the heartache for the hope. There you can come to find it in the end. For me, Jesus, my Lord and Savior, is my source of hope. Being able to evaluate the heartaches that came through my season of caring has actually helped me to find hope in the way that the Lord helped me grow through the experience. He allowed me to exchange the heartaches for hope and for other things that have come out of the season of caring for my dad. I put together a list of these heartaches that I exchanged for the beauty of hope. I hope that these can show you that you can do the same. Hope after my mom's terminal disease, building a closer relationship with my dad. Hope after watching my dad give up his job and stay home and care for my mom, learning what sacrifice looks like. Hope while my dad cares for my mom for 12 years in their home, watching true love lived out. Hope for feeding, bathing, and caring for my mom's physical needs when my dad would let me, developing the ability to see someone's needs without her being able to verbalize them. Hope after burying my mom when I was only 28, seeing my mom through the eyes of others at her funeral. Hope for life, even when dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 7 years after losing my mom. I'm valued and important to God, even when the unthinkable happens. Hope as my dad's disease progressed and needing 24/7 care, experiencing my husband's love and sacrifice shining through for my family and me. Hope after deciding
Mm.
Hope after deciding to help dad keep dad at home, growing a beautiful friendship with my sister. Hope while cleaning up poop, urine, and blood after accidents, stepping into dad's needs and putting aside any discomfort of my own. Hope after burying dad 20 years after mom, realizing I loved him well and walked him all the way home, and I have no regrets. Hope while grieving the journey, a heart to serve others as they walk their parents home. There's always hope.
Now, my big question's got to be, how did you do that without crying? That was
Practice.
amazing. Yeah, that is
Thank you.
so beautiful. And I can totally understand the title of your book. So hope. I love it. That was gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank everybody for staying to watch and listen to this too. So I think we're going to go from that to our rapid fire. Are you ready? Okay,
Right.
so one word questions. The music's keyed up. There's sound effects going on right now. So this is my chance to say and end on a fun note to such a serious topic. Thank you so much. So happy to meet you, and thank the audience for staying in. Let's do it. What is your favorite spiritual book?
The Bible.
Yay! To change the world today, the world needs what in order to be changed?
Hope.
Spoken so beautifully, right? We'll refer to that chapter in your book. Everybody comes with a life lesson. What do you think your life lesson has been?
It's hard, but it's worth it.
Love that. What do you love about yourself?
My resilience.
The last question before we wrap up and say goodbye, so thank you again. What are you doing when you're experiencing pure joy?
Hanging out with my puppy dog.
We got to witness it
Or my
here.
grandkids.
I love
My
it.
grandkids would do it too.
I love it. Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate
Thank
you. And we will catch you absolutely out again, because I know this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship for you and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.